In the annals of history, few names whisper with such tantalizing promise, such a profound sense of the unknown, as that of Henry Avery. A phantom of the seas, a king of buccaneers, his legend is etched not just in daring raids and ruthless ambition, but in an enduring, almost unbearable mystery. A mystery of untold riches. A treasure, immense beyond the comprehension of his age, plundered and then vanished. A fortune that sparked a global hunt, yet remains, to this day, elusively out of reach. What truly became of it? And of the man himself? The late 17th century. A crucible of burgeoning global trade, fierce imperial rivalries, and boundless horizons. It was a time when the lines between privateer, merchant, and pirate often blurred in the swirling mists of the open ocean. Amidst this volatile backdrop, a new breed of predator emerged. Men who saw not only opportunity in the vastness of the sea but a chance to defy the very powers that sought to control it. Henry Avery, known to many as Long Ben, would rise to become perhaps the most notorious among them. His story, a testament to ambition, greed, and a staggering ability to simply disappear. Before he became the scourge of the seas, Henry Avery's early life remains largely shrouded. We know he was English, born likely around 1659 or 1660. His career began legitimately, sailing as a common seaman in the Royal Navy, then later in the Merchant Marine. A life of hardship, certainly, but one constrained by law and convention. What events, what turning points, nudged him from the path of an ordinary sailor towards the precipice of piracy? The answers are elusive, lost to time, but the transformation was profound. From the shadows, a legend was about to be forged. His transformation began in earnest in 1693. Avery was serving as first mate aboard a ship called the Charles II, part of a privateering squadron bound for the West Indies. Their mission, to raid French colonies and prey on French shipping in the name of the Spanish crown. A venture sanctioned, if loosely, by authorities. But as weeks turned into months, and promised paychecks failed to materialize, discontent began to fester among the crew. They were stranded, unpaid, their loyalty frayed. The seeds of mutiny, sown by neglect, were taking root. In the deep of the night, at the Spanish port of Corunna, the simmering resentment boiled over. Avery, a charismatic and decisive figure, seized the moment. He rallied the disgruntled crew, who were owed significant back pay and saw no hope of receiving it. In a swift, bloodless coup, they mutinied against their captain and officers. They hoisted a new flag, one of defiance, of absolute freedom. With Avery at the helm, the Charles II was renamed the Fancy. It marked not just a change of name, but a dramatic shift in destiny. A legitimate venture had become something far darker. With the Fancy now under his command, Avery charted a new course, one of pure, unadulterated piracy. He offered his crew a choice: join him in this audacious new life, or be put ashore with a promise of safe passage back to England. Most chose the former, drawn by the allure of quick riches and a life unconstrained by law. Avery's leadership was immediate and transformative. He instilled a discipline rarely seen among pirates, yet offered the intoxicating promise of unparalleled freedom and wealth. He was no longer just a sailor, he was a captain, a pirate, forging his own rules in the vast, lawless ocean. Avery knew the lucrative hunting grounds of the West Indies were already crowded. His ambition was grander, his vision more daring. He set his sights on the distant, fabled riches of the Indian Ocean. A perilous journey, fraught with storms and naval patrols, but one that promised unimaginable rewards. The East was a nexus of trade, where magnificent treasure ships, laden with gold, silver, and jewels, sailed from exotic ports to distant empires. It was here, in these far-off waters, that Henry Avery would cement his legend, becoming the architect of one of the most audacious acts of piracy in history. Arriving in the Indian Ocean, Avery strategically headed for the island of Johanna, a common stopping point for ships. It was here that he began to forge alliances. Other pirate captains, hearing of his reputation and the impressive firepower of the Fancy, flocked to his banner. Among them were crews from other notable pirate ships, all eager to partake in a grand, coordinated venture. This was not the act of a lone wolf, but the formation of a formidable pirate armada. A collective force, united by avarice, set to unleash an unprecedented wave of terror upon the high seas. The most coveted targets in the Indian Ocean were the ships of the Mughal Empire. These magnificent vessels, often called pilgrim ships, carried not only devout Muslims on their sacred pilgrimage to Mecca but also vast amounts of wealth, the emperor's treasury, merchants' fortunes, and the riches of an entire civilization. They sailed annually, their routes predictable, their cargoes legendary. Every understood the immense risk but also the unparalleled reward. To strike at the Mughal fleet was to strike at the heart of an empire, and potentially secure a treasure beyond any pirate's wildest dreams. In late August 1695, Avery and his allied pirate fleet positioned themselves in a strategic choke point near the mouth of the Red Sea. Their intelligence was keen, they knew the Mughal convoy, returning from Mecca, would pass this way. They waited patiently. The tension must have been palpable, the stakes impossibly high. This was the moment their audacious plan would either be realized or crumble into dust. The vast blue expanse held the promise of history-making riches, or the crushing disappointment of failure. A trap, set with cunning and patience, awaited its unsuspecting prey. Then, on September 7, 1695, a lookout's cry pierced the morning air. On the distant horizon, a fleet of 25 ships appeared. The Mughal convoy. Among them, the prize of prizes, the Ganjai Sawai, or exceeding riches, a heavily armed Mughal ship, and its escort, the Fateh Muhammad. These were not mere merchantmen, they were formidable vessels, carrying not only wealth but also hundreds of pilgrims and armed guards. Avery's heart must have pounded. The moment of truth had arrived. The hunt, years in the making, was about to begin. Avery's fleet, composed of the Fancy and several other pirate ships, immediately gave chase. The first victim was the Fateh Muhammad, a smaller vessel that, despite its name, offered little resistance. After a brief skirmish, the pirates boarded, discovering a rich haul of gold and silver. But this was merely an appetizer. The main course, the legendary Ganjai Sawai, remained ahead, a behemoth bristling with guns and packed with an even greater fortune. The chase continued, relentless, across the azure expanse. The pirates, now invigorated by their initial success, closed in for the grand prize. The Ganjai Sawai was no easy prey. It was a massive ship, carrying 80 cannons and hundreds of musketeers. Its sheer size dwarfed the Fancy. Yet, fate, or perhaps sheer luck, intervened. During the pursuit, one of the Ganjai Sawai's largest cannons exploded on deck, causing chaos and disarray. This unexpected turn of events crippled the Mughal ship's ability to effectively defend itself. Avery, ever the opportunist, pressed his advantage. The Fancy unleashed a devastating broadside, tearing into the Mughal vessel's hull. The battle, once daunting, now swung dramatically in the pirates' favor. For hours, the fierce engagement continued. The pirates, numbering around 150, eventually overwhelmed the Ganjai Sawai's defenders. What followed was a brutal and merciless boarding. The pirates swarmed the deck, their cutlasses flashing, their pistols blazing. The resistance was valiant, but ultimately futile against the pirates' ferocity. The Mughal ship, once a symbol of imperial might and sacred passage, was seized. The screams of the terrified pilgrims, the clashing of steel, the acrid smell of gunpowder, it all culminated in a victory unimaginable in its scale and depravity. What Avery and his crew found aboard the Ganjai Sawai beggared belief. The ship was crammed with an astonishing trove of gold, silver, jewels, and precious silks. The official estimate placed the value at £325,000, an astronomical sum for the time. To put this in perspective, some historians estimate this to be roughly equivalent to $90 million in today's currency, but the true purchasing power and historical impact were far, far greater. This wasn't just a successful raid, it was a strike at the very foundations of global finance and imperial power. A single act of piracy had made Avery the wealthiest pirate in history, perhaps the wealthiest criminal of his age. The division of such immense spoils was a complex affair. Avery, adhering to a twisted form of pirate democracy, ensured his crew received their due. Each man walked away with the king's fortune, far more than most could ever dream of earning in a lifetime of honest labor. But even after the crew took their shares, Avery's own portion was staggering. He was now a man of immense, unimaginable wealth. The question, then, became not merely how to keep it, but how to escape with it. And how to disappear into a world that was suddenly, furiously, looking for him. News of the Ganjai capture sent shockwaves across the globe. For the Mughal Empire, it was an unimaginable humiliation and a profound financial blow. Emperor Aurangzeb, one of the most powerful rulers of his time, was incandescent with rage. The attack on his pilgrim ship, carrying not only his subjects but also his personal wealth, was an act of war, an affront to his divinity. He threatened to expel all English traders from India, effectively ending the East India Company's lucrative presence in the region. The stakes had suddenly escalated beyond mere piracy. This was international crisis. The English crown was thrust into an impossible diplomatic predicament. To appease the enraged Mughal emperor and protect the vital trade interests of the East India Company, they had to act decisively. Henry Avery could not be allowed to escape. He was a rogue element, a pirate whose actions threatened to unravel a delicate global balance of power. The hunt for Avery became a matter of national importance. An unprecedented bounty was issued, turning the pirate into the world's most wanted man. A global manhunt, perhaps the first of its kind, was officially underway. In an era of slow communication in vast, uncharted waters, tracking a single individual was an almost impossible task. Yet, the English crown and the East India Company mobilized all their resources. Their ships scoured the seas, their agents spread rumors and sought informants in every major port. Governors in colonial outposts were instructed to apprehend Avery and his crew on sight. The bounty, set at a staggering £1,000, was a testament to the urgency and desperation of the pursuit. Never before had such an extensive, international effort been launched to capture a single criminal. Avery had truly become a phantom target. The £1,000 bounty on Henry Avery's head was an immense sum, enough to buy vast tracts of land or live in luxury for many lifetimes. It incentivized betrayal, turned friends into potential enemies, and ensured no port, no tavern, no remote island could truly be considered safe. Avery was now a marked man, a walking, sailing fortune. The pressure mounted with every passing day, the shadow of the gallows a constant, menacing presence. How does one disappear with such a target on their back, carrying a fortune that could change nations? Following the raid, Avery and his crew sailed the Fancy to Bourbon, modern-day Réunion, where they divided the remaining spoils and repaired their ship. They knew they couldn't linger. The vastness of the Indian Ocean, once their hunting ground, now became a trap. Avery carefully plotted a course west, towards the Atlantic. He understood the urgency of disappearing. The Fancy was a distinctive ship, too well known. He needed to shed his identity, to shed his vessel. But where could a man with such notoriety, and such immense wealth, truly find anonymity? Avery's next destination was the Bahamas, a known haven for pirates, albeit one that was becoming increasingly scrutinized by colonial powers. He purchased a smaller sloop, the Seaflower, under the guise of being a slave trader. The Fancy was scuttled, set adrift to burn, a smoking pyre erasing the most famous vessel in piracy. With this act, Henry Avery attempted to sever his direct ties to the Ganjai raid. But changing ships and names could not erase the infamy, nor the colossal treasure he still possessed. The shadow of his past lingered, clinging to him like the salt spray. From the Bahamas, Avery sailed towards Ireland, then eventually to the British Isles. The ultimate goal was to slip back into obscurity, to disappear into the very society that hunted him. He gradually dispersed his crew, many of whom were eventually captured and tried. But Avery himself remained a ghost, his trail growing colder with each passing day. He was seeking not just escape, but oblivion. The question remains, did he achieve it? Did the world's most wanted man, with the world's most coveted treasure, truly vanish without a trace? After his last known movements in the British Isles around 1696, the historical record on Henry Avery goes completely silent. No confirmed sightings, no further arrests, no documented death. It's as if the man, and his incredible fortune, simply evaporated. A man who had commanded an armada, defied empires, and held the world's attention, became nothing more than a whisper. The bounty remained, the search continued for years, but Avery was never officially apprehended. The sheer completeness of his disappearance is as remarkable as his initial rise to infamy. What happened next? His fate, and more importantly, the fate of his immense wealth, became one of history's most tantalizing unsolved puzzles. Where did the gold, silver, and jewels from the Ganges go? Was it all spent, squandered, lost? Or does it lie hidden somewhere still, waiting to be discovered? The allure of Avery's lost treasure has captivated imaginations for centuries, fueling countless theories, expeditions, and literary tales. It's a riddle whispered by the waves, a legend woven into the very fabric of piracy. And it begs for answers. One prominent theory suggests that Henry Avery successfully retired to a life of quiet luxury in England or Ireland. He possessed an incredible ability to navigate dangerous waters and evade capture. With his vast wealth, it's plausible he could have purchased land, blended into society, and lived out his days anonymously. Perhaps he used his treasure to establish a new identity, investing in legitimate businesses, or simply living as a landed gentleman. The sheer scale of his fortune would have allowed him to buy silence, to pay off anyone who might recognize him, and to completely reinvent himself. A fitting end for such a master of deception? But this theory often comes with a darker twist. Some accounts, though unsubstantiated, claim that while Avery survived, he did not retain his immense wealth. Betrayal by former associates, or perhaps poor investments, could have stripped him of his fortune. He might have died in poverty, a stark contrast to the riches he had plundered. This version posits that his disappearance wasn't about avoiding capture with his treasure, but escaping ruin. A cruel irony for the man who stole a king's ransom. Could the world's richest pirate have ended his days as a pauper, his legendary fortune already scattered to the winds? The most romantic, and perhaps enduring, theory is that Avery buried his treasure on a remote island. Tales of pirates burying their loot are common, but for a haul of this magnitude, it gains considerable traction. Islands in the Caribbean, such as Île Sainte Marie off Madagascar, or even remote coves along the Irish coast, have all been named as potential sites. A map, a cryptic clue, a forgotten landmark, the elements of classic treasure hunts are all there. Imagine the thrill of discovering Avery's legendary hoard, untouched for over 3 centuries. But is this wishful thinking, or a genuine possibility? If the treasure was indeed buried, the practicalities of hiding such an immense quantity of gold, silver, and jewels would have been staggering. It would have required a trusted few, immense labor, and an almost supernatural secrecy. Did Avery trust anyone enough to help him? Or did he, the ultimate lone wolf, endeavor to bury it himself, ensuring no one else knew its location? The lack of any credible discovery, despite centuries of searching, only deepens the mystery. Perhaps the secret lies not just in the location, but in the very nature of his disappearance. A secret he took to his grave. Regardless of his ultimate fate, Henry Avery's impact on history is undeniable. He became a folk hero, an inspiration to other pirates who saw in him a man who dared to challenge empires and win. His audacious raid on the Ganges forever altered perceptions of pirate threat, forcing global powers to confront the growing menace of piracy with unprecedented resolve. His story solidified the romantic, yet terrifying, image of the Pirate King, a figure of absolute freedom, immense wealth, and chilling brutality. A legend that continues to resonate, even today. The lost treasure of Henry Avery, and the mystery of his disappearance, is more than just a historical footnote. It's a testament to the allure of the unknown, the power of a good story, and the human fascination with fortunes made and lost. It highlights a period when the world was vast, dangerous, and full of hidden possibilities. The answers may forever lie buried beneath forgotten sands, at the bottom of the sea, or simply in the quiet annals of a history that chose to forget its most audacious outlaw. But the questions? They remain, echoing through the centuries. So, was Henry Avery ever truly found? The official records say no. The bounty went unclaimed. The pirate king, Long Ben, simply ceased to exist in the public eye. But the absence of proof is not proof of absence. Somewhere, in the quiet corners of history, or perhaps in the secret chambers of a forgotten tale, his final chapter might be written. Or perhaps, the greatest trick he ever pulled was convincing the world he was gone, while he, and his treasure, simply faded into a prosperous, anonymous retirement. The final answer remains out of reach, a true ghost of the Golden Age.